Have you ever felt the cold distance in a relationship that you can't explain? The small things that add up to a big wall she's building between you. It's not an obvious change, but a series of subtle shifts that can quietly build up until you're on opposite sides of an emotional divide. At first, the signs are easy to ignore or justify, but over time, these small gaps grow into a chasm that's harder to cross. By the end of this video, you will understand 5 key emotional walls she might be building in your relationship. Walls that, if left unchecked, can completely sever the connection between you. You'll discover how these walls form slowly and subtly, and most importantly, you'll learn how to address them before they become permanent. The fear. These emotional walls are invisible yet powerful. They're not built overnight, but over time they accumulate, until one day you realize that the closeness you once shared is gone. You may start to fear that you too have missed the subtle signs in your own relationship, and now you're left wondering if the gap is too wide to bridge. Stay tuned, because recognizing these signs early could be the key to preventing an emotional separation you never saw coming. Wall 1. Emotional withdrawal. She used to share everything with you, the little things, her dreams, her fears, even the most trivial thoughts. But now there's a noticeable shift. She's become distant, emotionally unavailable, and has started keeping her thoughts to herself. When you ask how she's doing, her responses are short, and the conversation feels strained. The once open and free-flowing communication between you has turned into a series of clipped, hollow exchanges. There's a wall between you, and it's hard to reach her now. Emotional withdrawal is one of the first and most painful walls that can be built in a relationship. What once felt like a safe space to share and be vulnerable has now become a place where she retreats into herself. This wall might be built because of past hurts or fears of being judged or dismissed. Perhaps she no longer feels safe being open with you, or maybe she's simply emotionally exhausted. Whatever the reason, her withdrawal signifies a deeper shift in the relationship. In Stoic philosophy, the control of emotions and the importance of trust are central tenets. Marcus Aurelius, for example, wrote about the need to focus on internal calm and to avoid being swayed by external distractions. In the context of relationships, this means cultivating emotional resilience and open, honest communication. When she starts withdrawing emotionally, it's a sign that the trust and openness between you have been compromised. It's not necessarily an irreversible breakdown, but it's a clear sign that something is wrong and it needs to be addressed. When someone stops opening up to you, it's like a door slamming shut in slow motion, barely noticeable at first, but soon it feels like you're standing in a dark room, trying to figure out how to get in. At first, it's just one conversation that feels off, then another. Over time, the distance grows. This emotional wall is built so gradually that it might be hard to pinpoint when it started, but the effect is undeniable. You're left wondering, where did the connection go? How did you end up so far apart? Emotional withdrawal is painful because it signals the absence of the emotional closeness you once shared. It may seem like a small thing at first, but it's often the first sign that a much larger wall is beginning to form between you. If left unaddressed, it can lead to an emotional divide that becomes harder and harder to bridge. Recognizing this early is key, before it's too late to tear down the wall that's quietly but surely building between you. Wall 2. Deflection of responsibility. There was a time when she took responsibility for her actions, acknowledging her mistakes, and even apologizing when necessary. Those moments of humility and growth felt like a sign of maturity in the relationship. But now, something has changed. Whenever there's a disagreement or a problem, instead of owning her part, she deflects blame. She makes excuses, points fingers, or somehow shifts the focus to you. It's as if every conversation about the issues you're facing ends up with her blaming you for everything. What was once a space for honest, open dialogue has turned into a battlefield where it feels impossible to get to the heart of the matter. This deflection of responsibility is a powerful emotional wall that can be incredibly damaging to a relationship. At first, it might seem like small things, maybe a missed apology here or a defensive comment there, but over time, this behavior compounds. It becomes harder to address issues because every attempt to have a meaningful conversation is met with excuses or finger-pointing. It creates a cycle where you feel like you're the one who's always at fault, even when you know that's not the case. What's happening here is a defense mechanism, a refusal to acknowledge her role in the problems that are arising. By constantly deflecting responsibility, she's avoiding vulnerability. Owning up to mistakes requires confronting uncomfortable truths about herself, and the fear of criticism or judgment makes it easier to blame others. In a way, it's a form of emotional protection, but it's also a wall. Instead of addressing the real issues, she's hiding behind excuses and deflections. In Stoic philosophy, Epictetus taught that we are responsible for our own actions and responses. While we can't control others or their behavior, we have the power to choose how we react and how we take responsibility for our own actions. Epictetus emphasized the importance of self-awareness, of being honest with ourselves about our role in any situation. When she refuses to accept responsibility, it shows a lack of this self-awareness. She's choosing to hide behind this wall of deflection instead of facing the uncomfortable reality of the relationship's issues. In the Stoic view, this is an abdication of personal responsibility, which ultimately undermines the strength and growth of the relationship. Deflecting responsibility isn't just about avoiding an argument. It's about avoiding the reality that something deeper is happening. Every excuse, every shift of blame builds a wall between you. It's a wall that's becoming harder to ignore with every passing day. The more she deflects, the more the distance between you grows, and the harder it becomes to have any meaningful resolution. In the end, this wall is not just about avoiding conflict, it's about avoiding the truth. And the longer she hides behind it, the harder it will be to break down. Wall 3. Lack of affection and intimacy. There was a time when her touch, her closeness, her affection made you feel loved and wanted. A simple hug would light up your day. A kiss would spark a sense of connection, and even a casual touch on the arm would leave you feeling cherished. These small yet powerful moments of physical affection were the quiet markers of a deep bond between you. But now, those moments are sparse. A simple hug feels like a distant memory, and when you do attempt to be close, whether by initiating a kiss, holding her hand, or simply leaning in for a touch, she pulls away. Sometimes she seems indifferent, like she doesn't even notice. What once felt natural and comforting now feels distant and cold. This lack of affection represents one of the most painful walls that can be built in a relationship. It's not just about physical touch, it's a reflection of emotional withdrawal. Affection, both physical and emotional, is often the language of love in a relationship. When it fades, it's not merely a sign that the physical connection is gone. It points to a deeper emotional and mental distance that has grown between you. The affection that once flowed so naturally has been replaced by distance, and with every moment she pulls away, the bond between you weakens. This wall of lack of affection often stems from unspoken emotional wounds or disconnection. Maybe there were misunderstandings or unmet needs that neither of you addressed, and instead of confronting these issues, she chose to shut herself off emotionally. Intimacy, both emotional and physical, is built on trust and vulnerability. When someone withdraws from that intimacy, it's usually because they've either been hurt or have begun to emotionally detach themselves. In Stoic philosophy, intimacy wasn't viewed as a physical need, but as a reflection of mutual respect and shared understanding. The Stoics believed that relationships were most profound when both people maintained a sense of equality and mutual care. In this context, the absence of affection isn't just a lack of touch. It's a sign that one person is emotionally protecting themselves from further hurt or disillusionment. It's as though she's building this wall as a shield, a way to protect herself from vulnerability. Perhaps she feels exposed or fears that showing affection will lead to more pain, so she withdraws, creating a barrier between you. When affection fades, the emotional distance between you grows. The quiet, subtle moments of connection are replaced with silence, and with every moment she pulls away, you're left wondering, has she already made up her mind that she's no longer interested in being close to you? The fear that creeps in is the fear of the unknown. Will this wall become permanent? Will this distance become the new reality for your relationship? When affection fades, the bond fades with it, and the relationship starts to feel like a shadow of what it once was. The more she pulls away, the harder it is to rebuild what was lost, and the emotional void that remains becomes harder to ignore. This wall of disconnection can feel like the hardest one to break. When intimacy is absent, it's not just the loss of touch, it's the loss of something deeper, the emotional closeness that made you feel truly seen and loved. Wall 4. Increased need for independence. There was a time when she loved spending time with you, planning activities, going on dates, and simply enjoying each other's company. It was effortless, like the relationship was a natural part of your daily life. But now, things have changed. She's become more interested in spending time on her own. The outings with friends seem to happen more often without you, and even when you are together, she seems more focused on herself than on you. There's a noticeable shift in her energy, a growing desire for more space, more time apart. You can't help but feel a sense of distance creeping in, even when you're in the same room. This increased need for independence is one of the most significant walls she can build in a relationship. It's a signal that she's trying to reclaim something she feels she's lost: control over her own life, her own emotions. She might even be trying to escape from the pressures of the relationship, perhaps feeling overwhelmed, suffocated, or misunderstood. When someone seeks more space, it's often because they no longer feel emotionally connected in the same way. The closeness that once felt natural now feels like a burden they need to escape. Her desire for space can also be protective. It's a way of reasserting her autonomy, ensuring she has control over her actions and emotions when she feels like the relationship's intensity is becoming too much. It's as though she's trying to maintain her own identity apart from the relationship, creating room for herself in a way that's healthy, at least on the surface. However, this wall of increased independence is complicated. While autonomy is a vital aspect of any individual's well-being, relationships require balance. The Stoics recognize the importance of autonomy, particularly the control of one's own actions. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, emphasized that we cannot control others, only ourselves, and that the key to peace lies in mastering our own behavior. But relationships, according to Stoic wisdom, also require mutual engagement and shared understanding. Autonomy isn't just about taking space from the relationship. It's about respecting both your own need for independence and your shared need for connection. Too much space, unchecked by efforts to reconnect, can lead to an imbalance in the relationship. The need for independence might start to feel like a way to avoid emotional intimacy, creating a silent divide. The more she focuses on herself, the more you may begin to wonder if she's already building a life outside of yours. The fear begins to set in. Is this space necessary for her well-being, or is it a sign she's preparing to leave, emotionally, if not physically? Desiring space in a relationship might seem healthy at first, but when it's not balanced with efforts to reconnect, it creates a growing emotional chasm. And as the distance between you expands, you start to wonder if she's building a life outside of yours, a life where you no longer hold the same importance or place. When this wall of independence is built without the counterweight of connection, it's not just about reclaiming space, it's about losing the connection that once held you together. Wall 5. Emotional coldness. There was once a time when her words felt warm, her touch was gentle, and her presence brought a sense of comfort and safety. You could feel the love in her eyes, in the way she spoke, and in the gestures she made. But now everything has changed. Conversations that once felt intimate and full of affection have become mechanical. Her words feel sharper, her tone colder. It's as though she's put up a wall between you, and no matter how hard you try, you can't break through. She doesn't seem to care about your feelings in the same way she used to, and you start to wonder where the connection went. This wall of emotional coldness is one of the most painful walls to face in a relationship. It's a sign that she's shutting down emotionally, perhaps as a defense mechanism to protect herself from further hurt. Maybe she's experienced disappointment, betrayal, or emotional neglect in the past, and now she's retreating into herself, creating distance between you. The coldness is a way of guarding her heart, locking away her vulnerability so that she doesn't get hurt again. The Stoics, in their wisdom, spoke often about the importance of emotional resilience. While they believed we should strive to control external circumstances, they also placed significant value on mastering our internal world, especially our emotions. For the Stoics, emotional strength didn't mean suppressing feelings or denying pain, but learning to accept and control them in a way that didn't let them dictate our actions. Her emotional coldness, though a defense, shows her inability or unwillingness to trust and be vulnerable. It's as if she's choosing to remain distant because she's afraid of being hurt again. The danger of this wall is that it builds slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process. With each moment you don't see her true feelings, and every time she locks her heart away, the distance between you grows. The more she shuts you out, the harder it becomes for you to reach her, to remind her of the love you once shared. And eventually, if this wall isn't addressed, you may find that it's impossible to break through, no matter how much you care. Emotional coldness doesn't just freeze the present. It makes the past seem distant and the future uncertain. The longer it lasts, the more difficult it becomes to remember what it felt like to truly connect with her. Throughout this video, we've explored 5 protective walls that may slowly build up in a relationship: emotional withdrawal, deflection of responsibility, lack of affection, increased independence, and emotional coldness. These walls are rarely built all at once. Instead, they are constructed over time, often as a way for her to protect herself from pain or emotional vulnerability. At first, these defenses may seem like natural reactions to stress or hurt, but as time passes, they begin to build emotional distance, making it harder for both partners to remain truly connected. While her intentions may stem from self-protection, these walls prevent her from fully engaging with the relationship, and they prevent you from truly reaching her. As we reflect on the Stoic teachings, we're reminded that the foundation of strong relationships lies in communication and trust. While we can't control the walls others build, we do have control over how we respond to them. The Stoics emphasized resilience, inner strength, and the importance of accepting what we cannot change. But they also highlighted the value of honest dialogue and mutual understanding. In relationships, this means that while we cannot always prevent walls from being built, we can choose to take proactive steps to rebuild the connection, focusing on what we can control: our actions, our approach, and our willingness to communicate openly. If you've noticed any of these walls in your relationship, don't wait for them to grow too high. Addressing these issues early on can help prevent further emotional distance. Take the time to reflect on your own relationships. Are you building any walls? Are you letting her build hers without addressing it? Recognize these signs before they become permanent. By approaching these challenges with awareness and care, you have the power to restore the connection. If you found this video insightful, make sure to leave a comment with your thoughts, share it with someone who might need this reminder, and subscribe for more content on relationships and personal growth. Let's stay connected and continue growing together.